Black woman fired for reporting abuse at work, but what the judge uncovers changes everything. Part 1. Jasmine Anderson had always been a diligent and hardworking employee. For the past 8 years, she had dedicated herself to her job at a mid-size accounting firm, consistently delivering excellent work and earning glowing performance reviews. Her colleagues often praised her attention to detail, her strong problem-solving skills, and her unwavering commitment to the company's success. However, beneath the surface of Jasmine's professional success lay a troubling reality that she had been forced to endure for far too long. Her direct supervisor, a senior-level executive named Richard Simmons, had a long history of inappropriate behavior and discriminatory treatment towards Jasmine and other minority employees in the office. Richard's offenses ranged from making demeaning comments about Jasmine's appearance and hairstyle to blatantly favoring her white colleagues when it came to lucrative client assignments and promotional opportunities. On several occasions, he had even raised his voice and subjected Jasmine to aggressive, condescending tirades in front of the rest of the team. Jasmine had tried to address these issues discreetly with the firm's human resources department, but her complaints were routinely dismissed or downplayed. The HR representatives would often remind her that Richard was a highly valued member of the leadership team and that they were reluctant to take any action that might jeopardize his position. Frustrated and feeling powerless, Jasmine contemplated leaving the firm on numerous occasions. However, she was the primary breadwinner for her family, and the thought of starting over at a new job filled her with anxiety. She knew that finding a position that offered the same level of stability and compensation would be a significant challenge. As the months passed, Jasmine's work environment only deteriorated further. Richard's harassment and discriminatory behavior escalated, and he began to single her out for unwarranted criticism and disciplinary action. Despite her flawless track record, he began to document performance issues in her personnel file, laying the groundwork for her eventual termination. One day, after a particularly volatile confrontation with Richard, during which he berated Jasmine in front of the entire office, she decided that she could no longer remain silent. Mustering up her courage, she scheduled a meeting with the firm's managing partner, determined to once and for all address the toxic and discriminatory culture that had taken hold. During the meeting, Jasmine laid out a detailed account of Richard's abusive behavior, providing specific examples and even the names of other employees who had witnessed his actions. She pleaded with the managing partner to take decisive action, emphasizing the detrimental impact that this type of work environment was having on employee morale and the company's reputation. To Jasmine's dismay, the managing partner's response was one of dismissiveness and indifference. He acknowledged that he was aware of some personality conflicts between Jasmine and Richard, but he insisted that the firm could not afford to lose such a valuable member of the leadership team. He then delivered the crushing blow, informing Jasmine that her employment was being terminated, effective immediately. Stunned and devastated, Jasmine left the meeting in a daze. She had put her trust in the firm's leadership, believing that they would take her concerns seriously and address the blatant discrimination and harassment she had endured. Instead, she found herself unceremoniously fired, with no recourse or avenue for appeal. As Jasmine packed up her belongings and said her goodbyes to her shocked colleagues, a wave of emotions washed over her. Anger, betrayal, and a sense of profound injustice all coalesced, fueling her determination to fight back against the egregious treatment she had experienced. With the support of her family and a determined civil rights attorney, Jasmine decided to take legal action against the accounting firm, setting the stage for a legal battle that would ultimately uncover the depths of the company's corruption and change the course of her life forever. Black woman fired for reporting abuse at work, but what the judge uncovers changes everything. Part 2. The news of Jasmine's sudden termination came as a shock to her colleagues, many of whom had witnessed firsthand the abusive and discriminatory behavior of her supervisor, Richard Simmons. Despite the firm's attempts to portray Jasmine as an underperforming employee, her coworkers knew the truth. She was a dedicated and talented professional who had fallen victim to the company's toxic work culture. Devastated but determined, Jasmine refused to accept the injustice of her dismissal. With the support of her family and a seasoned civil rights attorney, she decided to take legal action against the accounting firm, filing a lawsuit that alleged wrongful termination, racial discrimination, and retaliation for reporting the hostile work environment. In the initial stages of the case, Jasmine's attorney, Emmeline Vine, faced an uphill battle. The firm's legal team, backed by a team of high-powered corporate lawyers, vigorously denied all of Jasmine's claims, portraying her as a disgruntled employee who had failed to meet the company's performance standards. However, as the case proceeded to trial, Emily began to uncover a troubling pattern of discriminatory practices and cover-ups within the firm's leadership. Through extensive discovery and meticulous investigation, she was able to obtain damning evidence that directly contradicted the company's narrative. Witness testimonies from Jasmine's former colleagues painted a vivid picture of the systemic racism and sexism that had permeated the workplace. Several employees came forward to describe the numerous incidents in which Richard Simmons had made inappropriate comments, denied promotions and client assignments to minority staff, and created a hostile, intimidating environment for anyone who dared to challenge his authority. Even more damning were the internal company documents that Emily managed to obtain. These records revealed that the firm's human resources department had received multiple complaints about Richard's behavior over the years, yet they had consistently dismissed or downplayed the concerns, often citing the need to maintain stability within the leadership team. As the trial progressed, the judge overseeing the case grew increasingly troubled by the testimony and evidence presented. It became clear that the firm's management had not only failed to address the abusive conduct of Jasmine's supervisor, but had also actively worked to cover up his misdeeds and subsequently terminate Jasmine in retaliation for her efforts to speak out. The judge's growing outrage was palpable as the true nature of the toxic work culture at the accounting firm was laid bare. He repeatedly expressed his disbelief that a company of such size and stature could have so blatantly disregarded the well-being and rights of its employees, particularly those from marginalized backgrounds. As the trial reached its climax, Emily Nguyen made a powerful closing argument, emphasizing the egregious nature of the firm's actions and the lasting impact that Jasmine's termination would have on her life and career. She passionately argued that the court had a moral and legal obligation to hold the company accountable for its discriminatory practices and to send a clear message that such behavior would not be tolerated. The judge's eventual ruling was a resounding victory for Jasmine and a scathing indictment of the accounting firm's leadership. Not only did he award Jasmine a substantial monetary settlement to compensate for her lost wages and the emotional distress she had endured, but he also ordered the immediate termination of Richard Simmons and the implementation of comprehensive anti-discrimination and harassment training for all of the firm's employees. As Jasmine left the courthouse, a sense of relief and empowerment washed over her. What had begun as a devastating blow to her career had now transformed into a profound personal triumph, one that would not only vindicate her but also pave the way for lasting change within the industry. Black woman fired for reporting abuse at work, but what the judge uncovers changes everything. Part 3. The judge's strongly worded ruling in Jasmine's case sent shockwaves through the business community, with many industry leaders and legal experts hailing it as a landmark victory for workplace justice and the rights of marginalized employees. The accounting firm, once regarded as a prestigious and reputable institution, now found itself grappling with a public relations crisis of epic proportions. The details of Jasmine's case, including the company's blatant disregard for her complaints and its subsequent attempt to terminate her, quickly became the subject of widespread media coverage. Numerous news outlets, both local and national, picked up the story, with many casting a harsh spotlight on the firm's toxic work culture and the systemic discrimination that had been allowed to fester within its walls. Commentators and legal analysts alike praised the judge's courageous decision, arguing that it would set a new precedent for how businesses must address issues of harassment and bias in the workplace. As the public scrutiny intensified, the firm's leadership team was forced to grapple with the aftermath of the court's ruling. The immediate termination of Richard Simmons, once considered an invaluable asset to the company, sent a clear message that the days of overlooking abusive behavior and discrimination were over. Furthermore, the judge's mandate for comprehensive anti-discrimination and harassment training for all employees was seen as a necessary step in overhauling the firm's toxic culture. The leadership team knew that they had to take swift and decisive action to regain the trust of their employees, clients, and the broader business community. Jasmine, meanwhile, found herself thrust into the spotlight as an unlikely hero in the fight against workplace injustice. Her story had resonated with countless individuals who had faced similar struggles, and she began to receive an outpouring of support and admiration from across the country. Many praised Jasmine's unwavering determination and courage in the face of adversity, applauding her refusal to back down even when the odds seemed stacked against her. Numerous civil rights organizations and advocacy groups reached out to her, offering their assistance and platform to help amplify her message and inspire others to follow in her footsteps. As Jasmine navigated the sudden attention, she found herself grappling with a range of emotions. While she was gratified to see the accounting firm held accountable for its actions, the traumatic experience of being fired and the subsequent legal battle had taken a significant toll on her mental and emotional well-being. In the aftermath of the trial, Jasmine took some much-needed time to focus on her own healing and recovery. She spent quality time with her family, sought the support of a therapist, and engaged in self-care activities that helped her regain a sense of balance and perspective. During this period of reflection, Jasmine also began to consider her next steps. The substantial monetary settlement from the lawsuit had provided her with a degree of financial stability, but she knew that she could not remain idle for long. The passion for her work and the desire to enact meaningful change within her industry continued to burn brightly within her. As Jasmine contemplated her options, she received an unexpected call from a respected executive at a leading accounting firm, one that had been closely following her case. The executive expressed admiration for Jasmine's courage and integrity and extended an invitation for her to join their team, where she would be given the opportunity to help drive diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Sensing a chance to turn her traumatic experience into a force for positive change, Jasmine enthusiastically accepted the offer. She knew that her new role would not only provide her with a chance to rebuild her career, but also allow her to use her voice and influence to ensure that no one else would have to endure the kind of abuse and discrimination that she had faced. With a renewed sense of purpose and a determination to create a more just and equitable workplace, Jasmine embarked on the next chapter of her journey, ready to make a lasting impact on the industry and inspire others to stand up against injustice. Black woman fired for reporting abuse at work, but what the judge uncovers changes everything. Part 4. As Jasmine settled into her new role at the leading accounting firm, she found herself overwhelmed by the sheer scope of the work that lay ahead. The company's leadership had been adamant about their commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, but Jasmine quickly realized that enacting real, sustainable change would require a multifaceted and long-term approach. One of Jasmine's first tasks was to conduct a comprehensive review of the firm's existing policies and practices, with a particular focus on identifying areas where bias and discrimination may have been prevalent. She pored over employee records, diversity data, and performance evaluations, searching for patterns and trends that could shed light on the underlying issues. What Jasmine uncovered was both alarming and unsurprising. Despite the firm's public proclamations of being a champion of equality, the data revealed stark disparities in the representation of minority employees, particularly in the upper echelons of the organization. Furthermore, a disturbingly high percentage of non-white employees had reported experiencing some form of discrimination or unfair treatment during their tenure. Armed with this evidence, Jasmine set out to build a robust plan for reform, one that would address the systemic challenges head-on and empower employees to speak up without fear of retaliation. She worked closely with the firm's leadership team, advocating for the implementation of new training programs, the establishment of employee resource groups, and the development of a transparent and impartial complaints process. As Jasmine's initiatives began to take shape, she encountered resistance from certain quarters within the organization. Some senior-level executives, accustomed to the status quo, were hesitant to embrace the sweeping changes she proposed, fearing that they might disrupt the company's operations or alienate long-standing clients. Undeterred, Jasmine continued to push forward, drawing inspiration from her own harrowing experience and the unwavering support of her allies both within and outside the firm. She knew that the path to true inclusivity and equity would be a long and arduous one, but she was determined to see it through, no matter the obstacles. As Jasmine's work gained momentum, news of her efforts began to spread within the industry. Other accounting firms, many of which had faced their own struggles with diversity and inclusion, reached out to Jasmine, seeking her advice and guidance. She quickly became a sought-after speaker and consultant, sharing her insights and experiences with audiences across the country. Jasmine's growing influence and reputation also caught the attention of the judge who had presided over her landmark case against the previous accounting firm. The judge, deeply impressed by Jasmine's ongoing commitment to drive change, invited her to testify before a congressional subcommittee on the topic of workplace discrimination and the need for stronger legal protections. In her testimony, Jasmine eloquently articulated the challenges faced by marginalized employees, drawing upon her own harrowing experience as well as the stories of countless others she had encountered. She spoke passionately about the importance of accountability, the need for more robust investigation and enforcement mechanisms, and the vital role that corporate leaders must play in fostering inclusive and equitable work environments. Jasmine's testimony struck a chord with the subcommittee members, many of whom expressed a renewed sense of urgency to address the systemic issues plaguing the business world. Several lawmakers vowed to introduce new legislation that would bolster anti-discrimination laws and empower employees to seek justice without fear of retaliation. As Jasmine stepped down from the witness stand, she felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. While the road ahead was undoubtedly long and arduous, she knew that her actions, both past and present, had the power to inspire and empower others to stand up against injustice and fight for a more equitable future. Black woman fired for reporting abuse at work, but what the judge uncovers changes everything. Part 5. In the months that followed her testimony before the congressional subcommittee, Jasmine's influence and impact within the accounting industry continued to grow. Her tireless efforts to drive diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives at her own firm had not gone unnoticed, and she quickly became a respected voice and thought leader on the topic. As Jasmine leveraged her platform to advocate for systemic change, she also found herself being approached by other organizations seeking her expertise and guidance. Accounting firms, both large and small, reached out to her, eager to learn from her experiences and implement the strategies she had developed to address bias and discrimination in the workplace. Jasmine, recognizing the immense power and responsibility that came with her newfound prominence, approached each new opportunity with a deep sense of purpose and commitment. She understood that her work had the potential to transform not just individual companies, but an entire industry that had long been plagued by a culture of exclusivity and marginalization. One particularly impactful collaboration came when Jasmine was invited to spearhead a comprehensive diversity and inclusion audit of a mid-sized accounting firm based in the Midwest. The company had been grappling with a series of high-profile discrimination lawsuits, and its leadership was determined to get to the root of the problem and implement lasting solutions. Under Jasmine's guidance, the audit process was meticulous and far-reaching. She pored over employee data, reviewed internal policies and procedures, and conducted in-depth interviews with individuals at all levels of the organization. What she uncovered was a systemic pattern of bias and discriminatory practices that had been allowed to fester for years, with little to no accountability or consequences. Jasmine's findings were both alarming and eye-opening. She identified numerous instances where qualified minority employees had been passed over for promotions and lucrative client assignments, often in favor of their less experienced white counterparts. Furthermore, the company's HR department had a long history of dismissing or downplaying employee complaints about harassment and unfair treatment. Armed with this damning evidence, Jasmine presented her findings to the firm's leadership team, outlining a comprehensive plan of action that would address the root causes of the problem and transform the company's culture from the ground up. The proposal included mandatory diversity and inclusion training for all employees, the establishment of employee resource groups, and the implementation of a transparent and impartial complaint process. To Jasmine's surprise, the firm's leadership team embraced her recommendations with a sense of urgency and commitment that she had not anticipated. The company's CEO, who had initially been skeptical of the need for such sweeping changes, publicly apologized for the organization's failures and vowed to make diversity and inclusion a top priority. Over the course of the next year, Jasmine worked closely with the firm's leadership team, guiding them through the implementation of her proposed initiatives and closely monitoring their progress. The results were nothing short of remarkable, as the company's employee satisfaction scores began to soar, and the representation of minority employees in leadership roles steadily increased. As news of the firm's transformation spread, Jasmine found herself in high demand, with other organizations eager to replicate her success. She began to travel extensively, sharing her expertise and insights at industry conferences and workshops, inspiring other leaders to take bold action in the fight against workplace discrimination. Throughout this whirlwind of activity, Jasmine remained grounded and focused on her ultimate goal: to create a more equitable and inclusive business landscape where individuals from all backgrounds could thrive and reach their full potential. She knew that the work was far from over, but with each new success story, she felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. As Jasmine looked back on the journey that had led her to this point, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and gratitude. The challenges she had faced, while immensely difficult, had ultimately transformed her into a powerful agent of change, one whose impact would be felt for years to come. Black woman fired for reporting abuse at work. What the judge uncovers changes everything. Part 6. As Jasmine's reputation as a trailblazer in the field of diversity and inclusion continued to grow, she found herself being sought out by a wide range of organizations, each with its own unique set of challenges and obstacles to overcome. One such opportunity came when Jasmine was approached by the leadership team of a prestigious global consulting firm. The company had recently been embroiled in a highly publicized scandal, where several high-profile employees have been accused of engaging in a pattern of sexual harassment and misconduct. The fallout from the scandal had been devastating, both in terms of the company's reputation and its bottom line. Clients had fled in droves, and many talented employees had chosen to leave the firm, citing a toxic and unethical work culture. Recognizing the urgent need for intervention, the consulting firm's leadership team reached out to Jasmine, hoping that she could help them rebuild trust, restore their tarnished image, and create a more inclusive and respectful work environment. Jasmine, ever the champion of workplace justice, eagerly accepted the challenge. She knew that the task ahead would be daunting, but she was confident that her experience and expertise could make a real difference. Upon delving into the inner workings of the consulting firm, Jasmine was dismayed to uncover a deeply entrenched culture of abuse, misogyny, and cover-ups. The allegations of sexual harassment were just the tip of the iceberg, as she discovered a staggering number of incidents where employees, particularly women and minorities, had been subjected to discriminatory treatment, bullying, and retaliation. What was perhaps most alarming, however, was the way in which the company's leadership had responded to these issues. Instead of taking swift and decisive action, they had repeatedly swept the problems under the rug, often prioritizing the protection of the firm's reputation and bottom line over the well-being of their employees. Jasmine knew that addressing this level of dysfunction would require a comprehensive and multifaceted approach. She began by conducting a thorough audit of the company's policies, procedures, and overall culture, leaving no stone unturned in her quest to uncover the root causes of the toxic environment. As she presented her findings to the leadership team, Jasmine's unwavering determination and attention to detail quickly earned her the respect and trust of even the most skeptical executives. They recognized that she was not there to simply placate them or offer superficial solutions, but to enact real, sustainable change that would transform the very fabric of the organization. Under Jasmine's guidance, the consulting firm embarked on a journey of profound transformation. She spearheaded the development of a robust anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policy, one that emphasized the importance of accountability and the swift, impartial investigation of all complaints. Additionally, Jasmine worked tirelessly to create a culture of transparency and open communication, encouraging employees at all levels to voice their concerns without fear of retaliation. She also championed the establishment of employee resource groups, which provided marginalized individuals with a supportive community and a platform to advocate for their rights. As the firm's new initiatives began to take root, the positive impact was palpable. Employee satisfaction scores soared, and the company's reputation among clients and industry peers began to rebuild. Perhaps most importantly, the number of reported incidents of harassment and discrimination steadily declined, as the once entrenched toxic behaviors were slowly but surely eradicated. Jasmine's work at the consulting firm cemented her status as a true trailblazer in the field of diversity and inclusion. Her unwavering commitment to creating equitable and inclusive workplaces had not only transformed the lives of countless individuals, but had also set a new standard for the industry as a whole. As she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point, Jasmine couldn't help but feel a profound sense of pride and purpose. She knew that the fight for workplace justice was far from over, but with each victory, she was one step closer to realizing her dream of a more equitable and inclusive future. As Jasmine's reputation as a champion of workplace justice and a trailblazer in the field of diversity and inclusion continued to grow, she found herself in high demand, with organizations across the country seeking her expertise and guidance. One particularly notable opportunity came when Jasmine was approached by the leadership team of a prominent law firm, which had been facing its own set of challenges when it came to fostering a more inclusive and equitable work environment. The firm's leadership recognized that the legal industry, long known for its traditional and often exclusionary practices, was in desperate need of a cultural shift. They knew that in order to attract and retain the best and brightest talent, they would need to take decisive action to address the systemic biases and barriers that have been holding back minority and underrepresented employees. Eager to spearhead this transformation, the firm's managing partners extended an invitation to Jasmine, asking her to join their team as a diversity and inclusion consultant. They were fully prepared to grant her the resources and autonomy she would need to implement sweeping changes across the organization. Jasmine, recognizing the immense responsibility and potential impact of this role, accepted the offer with a deep sense of purpose and determination. She knew that the legal industry, with its long-standing traditions and rigid hierarchies, would present a unique set of challenges, but she was confident that her expertise and experience could pave the way for meaningful and lasting change. As Jasmine delved into the inner workings of the law firm, she quickly identified a number of areas where the organization's policies and practices were falling short when it came to promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. From the recruitment and hiring process to the firm's approach to professional development and advancement, she uncovered a consistent pattern of bias and discrimination that had been systematically undermining the career trajectories of minority and female attorneys. Recognizing the urgency of the situation, Jasmine wasted no time in implementing a comprehensive plan of action. She began by overhauling the firm's recruitment strategies, placing a greater emphasis on sourcing and nurturing diverse talent from a wide range of backgrounds. This included partnering with local law schools, community organizations, and professional associations to reach a more diverse pool of applicants. Alongside these efforts, Jasmine also spearheaded the creation of a mentorship program which paired junior attorneys from underrepresented groups with seasoned partners who could provide them with the guidance, support, and advocacy they needed to thrive within the firm. This initiative, coupled with a renewed focus on equitable performance evaluations and promotion criteria, helped to dismantle the long-standing barriers that have been hindering the advancement of minority and female lawyers. Perhaps most significantly, Jasmine worked tirelessly to foster a culture of accountability and transparency within the organization. She established a dedicated diversity and inclusion committee, which was empowered to investigate and address any incidents of discrimination or harassment, and she ensured that the firm's leadership team was regularly held accountable for their progress, or lack thereof, in achieving their diversity and inclusion goals. As Jasmine's initiatives began to take root, the results were nothing short of remarkable. The firm's employee satisfaction scores soared, and the representation of minority and female attorneys in leadership roles steadily increased. Moreover, the firm's reputation within the industry began to transform, with clients and peers alike recognizing the organization's commitment to fostering a more inclusive and equitable legal landscape. Jasmine's work at the law firm solidified her status as a true pioneer in the field of workplace diversity and inclusion. Her unwavering dedication, coupled with her strategic vision and exceptional execution, had not only transformed the lives of countless individuals, but had also set a new standard for the industry as a whole. As she reflected on the journey that had led her to this point, Jasmine couldn't help but feel a profound sense of pride and purpose. She knew that the fight for workplace justice was far from over, but with each victory, she was one step closer to realizing her dream of a more equitable and inclusive future for all. As Jasmine's work at the prestigious law firm continued to yield remarkable results, her reputation as a trailblazer in the field of diversity and inclusion continued to grow, attracting the attention of organizations and leaders from across the country. One such individual was the president of a prominent professional association for accountants. The association had long been criticized for its lack of diversity and inclusion, with the overwhelming majority of its members and leadership coming from a narrow demographic background. Determined to address this issue head-on, the association's president reached out to Jasmine, inviting her to join the organization's board of directors and serve as a special advisor on diversity and inclusion initiatives. Jasmine, recognizing the immense potential impact she could have in this role, enthusiastically accepted the invitation. She knew that by leveraging the platform and resources of the association, she would be able to enact change on an even larger scale, influencing the culture and practices of the accounting industry as a whole. Upon joining the board, Jasmine immediately set to work, conducting a comprehensive review of the association's existing policies, programs, and membership demographics. What she uncovered was a deeply entrenched culture of exclusivity and complacency, with little to no meaningful efforts being made to address the glaring disparities that have been plaguing the industry for decades. Undaunted, Jasmine began to develop a multi-pronged strategy for transformation. She started by overhauling the association's recruitment and outreach efforts, placing a renewed emphasis on attracting and supporting a more diverse pool of aspiring and seasoned accountants. This included the establishment of scholarship programs, mentorship initiatives, and targeted professional development opportunities that were specifically designed to empower and uplift individuals from underrepresented backgrounds. Jasmine also worked tirelessly to ensure that the association's leadership and governance structures were reflective of the diversity she was seeking to cultivate. Alongside these efforts, Jasmine also spearheaded the creation of a comprehensive diversity and inclusion framework that would be implemented across the entire organization. This framework included mandatory anti-bias training for all members, the development of clear and transparent policies for addressing discrimination and harassment, and the establishment of employee resource groups that could serve as hubs of support and advocacy. As Jasmine's initiatives began to take root, the impact was swift and profound. The association's membership numbers grew exponentially, with a significant influx of diverse, talented individuals who were eager to be a part of the organization's transformative journey. Moreover, the association's reputation within the accounting industry began to shift, with peers and industry leaders taking note of the organization's newfound commitment to inclusivity and equity. Jasmine's work had not only transformed the association from within, but had also inspired a broader cultural shift that was being felt across the entire profession. Buoyed by these successes, Jasmine continued to leverage her platform and influence to drive change at an even greater scale. She began to speak at industry conferences, sharing her insights and strategies with other professional associations and leading firms, inspiring them to follow in the footsteps of the organization she had helped to transform. Jasmine's tireless efforts did not go unnoticed, and she soon found herself being recognized as a true pioneer and visionary in the field of workplace diversity and inclusion. Numerous accolades and awards began to pour in, each one serving as a testament to the profound impact she had made and the lasting legacy she was poised to leave behind. As Jasmine reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point, she couldn't help but feel a profound sense of gratitude and accomplishment. The challenges she had faced, both personal and professional, had only served to strengthen her resolve and deepen her commitment to creating a more equitable and inclusive world. With each new victory, Jasmine knew that she was not just transforming the lives of individual employees, but was also paving the way for a future where diversity, equity, and inclusion would be the norm, rather than the exception. It was a future she was determined to see realized, no matter the obstacles that lay ahead. As Jasmine's influence and impact within the accounting and legal industries continued to grow, she found herself increasingly in demand as a sought-after speaker, consultant, and thought leader on the topic of workplace diversity and inclusion. From industry conferences to corporate boardrooms, Jasmine's message of equity, empowerment, and systemic change resonated with audiences across the country. She shared her own personal story of triumph over adversity, using it as a powerful catalyst to inspire and embolden others to take action against injustice and discrimination. Jasmine's unwavering commitment to creating a more inclusive and equitable future also caught the attention of policymakers and lawmakers who recognized the vital importance of her work in addressing the deep-rooted challenges that had long plagued the business world. On multiple occasions, Jasmine was invited to testify before congressional committees and state legislatures, where she provided expert testimony and advocated for the implementation of stronger legal protections and enforcement mechanisms for employees facing discrimination and harassment. Through these high-profile platforms, Jasmine's message continued to gain traction, resonating with a growing number of individuals and organizations who were eager to join the fight for workplace justice. She leveraged her newfound influence to forge strategic partnerships with civil rights organizations, labor unions, and community-based groups, creating a powerful coalition of advocates who were determined to drive systemic change. As Jasmine's reach and impact continued to expand, she remained deeply grounded in her personal mission and the lived experiences that had shaped her journey. She never lost sight of the individuals whose lives she had touched, nor the organizations she had helped transform through her tireless efforts. One such organization was the prestigious law firm that had entrusted Jasmine with the task of overhauling its diversity and inclusion practices. Even as her profile on the national stage grew, Jasmine maintained a close connection with the firm, regularly checking in on its progress and offering guidance and support as it continued to navigate the challenges of cultural transformation. The firm's leadership, in turn, remained deeply grateful for Jasmine's contributions, recognizing that her work had not only improved the lives of their employees, but had also had a tangible impact on the firm's bottom line and reputation. They continued to champion Jasmine's efforts, proudly highlighting her successes and advocating for her as she took on ever larger platforms and responsibilities. As Jasmine looked back on the remarkable journey that had led her to this point, she couldn't help but feel a profound sense of pride and purpose. The challenges she had faced, the discrimination, the retaliation, the seemingly insurmountable obstacles, had only served to strengthen her resolve and deepen her commitment to creating lasting, systemic change. Now, as a respected authority on diversity and inclusion, Jasmine found herself in a position to truly transform the landscape of the business world. She knew that the work was far from over, that the fight for equity and justice would be an ongoing battle, but she was more than ready to meet the challenge head-on. With a renewed sense of determination, Jasmine continued to push forward, leveraging her platform and influence to empower and uplift marginalized individuals, challenge entrenched systems of oppression, and inspire a new generation of leaders who were committed to creating a more just and equitable future. As she looked to the horizon, Jasmine could see the glimmer of a brighter day, a day where diversity, inclusion, and opportunity would be the hallmarks of the business world, rather than the exception. It was a future she was determined to help realize, one step at a time, until the transformation she had fought for became the new norm. And as Jasmine embarked on the next chapter of her journey, she did so with a deep sense of gratitude, humility, and an unwavering belief in the power of the human spirit to overcome even the greatest of challenges. For she knew that the true measure of her legacy would not be found in the accolades or the awards, but in the lives she had forever changed, the barriers she had shattered, and the lasting impact she had made on the world.